Every time Jen Dean speaks, I can see hope,
knowledge, expertise, wisdom, and love.
When Jen Dean speaks about parenting, we make sure that we are there to listen because we know we will get valuable advice.
Families Matter Most with Jen Dean.
She doesn't just give skills for us to be better parents, but she teaches us how to reach our children's hearts. And at the end of the day, that's what truly matters.
Welcome to the Families Matter Most podcast. I do have a disclaimer today. The content we're talking about may not be suitable for all audiences. I need to give you just fair warning. This could be triggering. This might not be great for little ears. So if you're listening in the minivan, this might not be the podcast for this time. Also, language. We're going to be talking to a mom who's gone through horrific events, and I'm never going to tell her she can't swear if she wants to. So maybe perhaps a language disclaimer as well. Today on the podcast, we're talking about every parent's worst fear, the death of their child. For me, it's the doorbell ringing. And I imagine, sometimes I'll just picture this, it'll flash into my brain. Like, what if? What if it's a couple of police officers standing there? Would I answer the door? Or would I run away? Would I hope it just goes away? Could it be my worst fear? Maybe it's just a ticket. Maybe they just have a question. But it's always this fear that what if they're going to ask if they can come in? What if they're going to ask if my husband's around or there's someone I can call or they have some terrible news? And then my brain kind of breaks because I don't really know what to do with that. I don't know how to process the loss of a child. But my podcast today lost her daughter, Amber. On August 23rd, 2024, Christopher Kyle Sobey was charged with homicide and the stabbing and death of his girlfriend, 37-year-old Amber Dawn Robson. He had taken a bunch of magic mushrooms and then killed Amber. He pled guilty to manslaughter and received 7.5 years in prison. Amber's mom, Tammy MacDonald, joins me on the podcast today, along with one of her best friends, Linda Hakowich. Thank you for being part of this podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Tammy doesn't want Amber to be thought of as a drug abuser or that she was in a relationship of ongoing abuse. She wants parents to know that recreational drugs are a problem today. The laws aren't clear enough. Tammy's still working through her grief, and her story is raw. But she's here today to represent her daughter, Amber, who can't be. Tammy, tell us about that night.
That night, I received a phone call from the alarm company, and I thought it was strange because Amber had told me that they were staying at home that night. So I tried her phone number. I tried Chris's phone number. Neither one were answering, so I drove to her house. As I got close to her house, the alarm company phoned me back, or I finally got through to them, I should say, and they told me that it was her front door alarm that went off, which was strange because we had ripped her stairs off just 2 weeks prior to that, rebuilding them. I pulled into the alley, and as I pulled into the alley, I could see 2 police cars, the dreaded yellow tape, and I thought, that's not right. And I pulled up to the police officer's car. I got out and I said, I'm coming to your car. I don't know why I said that. And walked up to his window and said, what's going on? And he said, who are you? And I said, I'm Amber's mom. And he said, well, there was a stabbing. And I said, okay, I'm going in. And started walking away. And he said, no, you can't. And I said, yeah, I can. I'm her mom. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, you have to wait a minute. And he said the lead sergeant or lead officer was coming around to talk to me. She pulled into the alley and looked right at me. And I looked at her and I said, no, don't. Because that dread built up.
Yeah.
And you just know what they're going to say. So she said the words that nobody wants to hear. Amber's dead. Amber's deceased. And I said, no. I grabbed my phone, opened up a picture, and I said, this is my daughter. That's not who's in that house. She said, no, I'm sorry, it is. So after the breakdown, I said, where's Chris? Is Chris okay? Because never in a million years did I think that he would have done anything. I thought because she owned this house in the hood that somebody broke in. It had to have been a break-in. Had to have been a home invasion. And I'm like, where's Chris? Is he okay? And they said, they kept ignoring it and saying, can we phone somebody? So I phoned my partner, Kelly. And I told him what had happened. And he was in disbelief. And I said, you have to go get Ace. He was at a friend's place end of summer because it's August 23rd. They've already graduated. His friends were going off in different directions. So he got pulled from that party.
This is your other son,
This is
Amber's brother.
Yeah, this is my son. So as I'm waiting for them to come, I kept asking where Chris is. They kept saying it's okay, he's fine, he'll be okay, we can't really tell you anything. They just kept avoiding the question, right? So Kelly came and Ace came and we had our family breakdown in the alley. Ace kept saying, where's Chris? Like, has anybody been sent to Chris's house? And I said, I don't know. They're not telling me anything. And then Amber's neighbor came into the backyard. And ironically, his name is Chris, too. And I said, Chris, do you know what happened? Like, did you hear anything? Like, what happened? And he said, I don't know anything. And I said, Amber's dead, and we don't know where Chris is. And he said, they just took him away in an ambulance, like not too long ago. So that's when the police finally said, he's at the hospital. And I said, I need to go see him. And because my fear was that somebody had broke in and Amber and him, she took the brunt of it because that's who she is. She protected what she loved.
And at this point, you would never have thought that Chris was...
Never. And they said, no, you can't go see him. He's at the hospital. He's being treated. And I'm like, have you told his mom? We need to go get his mom. She needs to know because he lived a block and a half behind where Amber did. And they said that they had already contacted her. Everything was fine. Don't worry about that. We need to get you someplace. Can we, do you want to go home? And then I started thinking about my mom. So Kelly and Ace and I left my vehicle there and we went to my mom's place. And the next morning, the police said that they wanted to see me at the police station at 9:30. So the next morning when I went to the police station, I was still, I prayed for Chris all night.
Right, worrying about his injuries.
Yes, because all I knew is that he was injured and he was taken to the hospital. So I prayed for him all night thinking, what must he be going through? He's there by himself. He knows Amber is dead. He knows he didn't save her. And then all through the interview, again, I asked about Chris and they said, don't worry, he's fine. And they said that they're actually questioning him as well. He'll be in later today. They're going to be questioning him. We just talked about her relationship with Chris and I told them anything and everything I could think of because from the get-go, whatever happened, I wanted them to know everything. So I told them everything. I told them about her friends. I told them that she had BPD, that she, was finally in a good place after years of struggling and counseling and medication and getting someplace and researching it all herself. I told them that she smoked dope to relax herself, that she microdosed mushrooms to help with some of her mental health, that she used to drink, but she only has the odd drink now, here and there. I told them everything. I told them about her love for Chris, her love for, her utmost, happiness was when she met Chris, that it was their 1-year anniversary, that a year before that they had met. I had got Shake the Lake tickets and gave them to her because we decided to go do a family event in Alberta. And she went to shake the lake, and Auntie Linda was her out on her first blind date because Auntie Linda and Uncle Lance were there. So Amber knew that if this wasn't going right, she would just go find her Auntie Linda. And so this was their 1-year anniversary. And Amber honestly thought that she'd said to me, I think he might propose. I think this is it. We've been doing a lot of talking about our future and togetherness, and he's moving in October, and, you know, all these plans and these future plans that they had that she told me about. So I told that all to the police. And then I went home and sat and prayed and worried and like wondered what could have happened. Like who could have got in the house? Like who would have done this, right?
At this point, you had no answers.
I had no answers. And then at roughly 6:30 that night, one of the sergeants working on the case phoned me, and his words were, I'm going to tell you something that is going to leave you with more questions than answers, but we have an overwhelming amount of evidence to charge Christopher Kyle Sobey with second-degree murder. I was absolutely flabbergasted because nowhere in me did I think that he would ever have done that. They had an awesome relationship. Like, she talked about how they never argued. They never really had disagreements. They talked about everything. They worked everything out. So this was just, talk about being blindsided.
Yeah. Like, they were in a good place. So what I'm hearing about Amber is this wasn't a wild party gone wrong. This was something else, because Amber, yeah, maybe some mild recreational drugs, but she was calm. She had a good life. She had a career. She owned her house. She had a gym. She would go to the gym all the time with Kyle, with Chris. So this, absolutely, you'd be flabbergasted. This doesn't make any sense.
No. She had all her ducks in a row. They were making plans. Like, she owned her house. She owned her Jeep. She had just put her dog, her favorite being in the world. We put him down in June because he was 14, and he was old. So, I mean, we did, this is a girl that I did everything with.
And you talked about everything.
We talked about everything. Like, she told me what most parents probably don't like to hear, but she told me intimate details about their relationship and how good their relationship was. From the time, I was a single parent for years with her, but she told me everything. We talked about her deepest, darkest fears. We talked about her ambitions. We talked about everything. Like, there was nothing that she didn't tell me. She may have waited. She may have waited a while before she actually came clean on something. And her boss, Mark, said it best when he says, you always knew when Amber was going to have that conversation with you, because she'd stand up, she'd hike up her jeans and say, we need to talk.
Ah, okay.
And then the juicy details would come out.
So you had a good, strong relationship. You communicated. Did this feel like domestic abuse to you?
Not at all.
No.
It was, and I kept saying to the police, it's not domestic abuse. It's not domestic abuse. And they said, well, no, but it was a domestic relationship that ended in the worst kind of abuse. He stabbed her 11 times, not to mention her defensive wounds. When I got to her house a couple of days later, when they finally released the scene, and you have to walk through that back door and see the blood on the stairs, the blood on the walls, the pools of it in the living room and in the kitchen. And you can actually see how the whole act played out.
And you had to see that.
And I had to see that.
And that's your little girl.
That's my little girl. That's her blood on the floor.
Tammy, I'm so sorry. What's getting you through this?
There's days I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel I have to.
I feel, if anything, Tammy has walked through this with the utmost dignity and grace, praying for people that I personally believe didn't deserve a prayer after the fact, and worrying about, like Chris's family, and worrying about our last visit with Regina Police Services. She took them baking and, pickles. And, she has walked through this with the utmost grace and dignity that, if I couldn't, I don't think I could have done it.
Well, I don't know if anyone feels like they could do it, and then you have no choice. You have to do it.
You have to do it. I had a choice where I could have curled up into the fetal position and not done anything ever again. Believe me, I felt that. But then I look and I got my son, I got my partner, I have my best friends, my brother, who has been my rock. He's my other rock. Linda's my rock. My brother has been there through every step of the way. He and my sister-in-law and my cousin were the first ones to the house. Because, of course, when stuff like this happens, you now have to deal with insurance because she owns her house. It's not a rental that she can just walk away from, right? She owns the house, so now we have to deal with the house. So they were the first ones there because my son begged me not to go to the house. And I finally got angry when the first quote came in and said, I'm going to the house. And so you walk in and you just have to do it. And I know I have to do it for Amber because that's the way I've always been.
Yeah.
I worry about everybody. My mom, my sister, and her husband who are out in BC. They're not here all the time, so I worry about them. My brother, who is here with his wife, they're amazing. Lisa was there. When it came to doing stuff with the house, Alan and Lisa were always there. When it came to packing her stuff up, I had a group of friends that were just amazing because you now have to invite people into her house where it was her private sanctuary.
Yeah.
Amber didn't have people in her house. She kept her house as hers, and very few people got invited over. And I don't think it's because she didn't want them there. It's just because when she went home, that was her space. That was her domain. And she had her elder dog there for quite a while, and she liked just to keep things peaceful for him. But to all of a sudden have people in her house going through her things, packing, but you got to hold it together. You just do because you have to, because there's this little girl patting me on the shoulder going, it's okay, Mom.
Yeah. Linda, what I'm hearing through Tammy's tears speaks of support and community and family and friends that are family. I don't know how any of us can get through this without that. And I would encourage everyone listening to this to build those supports. Life is busy, and right now there is a loneliness epidemic in our society, and a lot of us don't have people. And I pray that this never happens to anyone, but I don't know how you get through it without support, without people.
You don't. If I didn't have Linda, I'd text her and say, hey, you got a minute? And she always says yes. She's always there. And Kim is another one that I can call on when needed. Because, I made that phone call Saturday morning.
And that's a phone call as a friend you never, ever want to hear. Amber and I were super close as well. And when Tammy called on her way to the police station that morning, she said, Amber's gone. And I was like, gone where?
Right. Yeah.
And she said, no, Amber was murdered. And to this day, that will forever ring in my head.
Yeah. How does your brain even?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she gave me the details. I said, okay, I will call our group so you don't have to reiterate this. And I called them, and everybody jumped in and said, what can we do? what does she need?
What I'm hearing from people that have gone through incredibly hard things is they would say, don't say things like, well, if you need anything, call me. Because Tammy, you won't. You won't just call and be like, well, I'd really like to eat something. But what I'm hearing is friends, family, supports. You just jump in and do it. You just do it. Or find a point person like Linda, you were, so people can come to you and organize stuff. So it's not more things in Tammy's brain. That sounds like that's kind of what you did.
Absolutely. Everybody would text me and they were like, let me know if Tammy needs anything. I'm just checking in. Have you heard from Tammy today? Do you think it would be okay if I called her or I texted her? Yeah. And I'd be like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I needed those distractions, as I guess you can put them. Linda was great with my closest friends. They were all there. But I also have to say that my church, the First Presbyterian Church, they do what's called Love on a Plate. And I had so much food that fed everybody for days and days, so they were there. Community is what held me together.
And that matters. A lot of people think all I can do is bring a meal, but it meant something to you.
Huge. Like I had a friend that brought, and it seems silly, but you have no idea. Like she showed up at the door and she had a stack of paper plates, napkins, throwaway silver, like the wooden silverware, cups. And she said, I looked at her and she says, I know it looks like a silly gift, but just put them on the counter and you don't have to worry about a thing. And it was, they just sat on the counter and the food was there. And I have a dishwasher, but nobody had to worry about it. It was a gift that really stuck out in my mind. And I kind of tucked it in the back there and went, if anything like this ever happens, a death in the family, that's what you take, because there's a lot of people that take food, but that just, that gift kind of rang out too. What an amazing gift. People brought gift cards, for food to go out and eat. And
skip the dishes.
Exactly. Skip the dishes. And just the endless support. Like Amber went through life thinking that she has her core group of friends that were really, really close to her. Jason and Kat and Gina. And that was her group of people that she called on the most, that she visited with and were close to her outside of her aunties by choice. But that day in the church, we have a big church, and it was packed. There's people in the balcony, and the place was packed, and that just speaks to the volume of the devastation, of the brutality of what happened.
Yes.
But it speaks to the community that gathers around that you don't think you have, but you do.
And the right people in the right roles that were put in our path as well, from the funeral home, that allowed us in to spend time with her. I got to do her hair for one last time. Oh. And even the RPS, they were amazing through all of this, the support that they gave. Flooring company that came in and had to replace all the floors in her house. They were absolutely amazing.
So there's been good people throughout this horrible event.
Yeah. Put in our path. And I mean, I can't say enough about RPS, the support. I mean, that night after I got the phone call and they told me that it was Chris that did this horrific thing. I think it was 11:30 at night. I was sitting there thinking, and there's so many things that run through your head. And all of a sudden I went, he's going to try to kill himself. And that person does not get to take that way out. And I sat there and I just kept thinking, what if he does? What if he does? He can't. There's answers. I need answers. And I phoned the police officer that was on call that night, the sergeant that was on the case. And I said, you need to watch him. Do not let him kill himself. He does not get to take that way out.
Right.
And he said, we're on it.
Now, from the beginning of this, you were worried and caring for Chris. How are you feeling now? He's in jail. He's serving time.
He's in jail. He was sentenced to, he pled guilty, and he was sentenced to 7.5 years. Jailhouse mouth puts him out in 6 years and 11 months. So not the sentence that we wanted at all. And I have no thoughts for him but hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have never, like, you can say you hate someone. And I told my children the whole time they grew up, you never use the word hate because it's such a strong, powerful word. But I hate him.
Yeah.
To his core.
So you don't feel like, it's not his fault because he took these mushrooms, he took too many, he was under psychosis. You don't feel that way?
No. I feel that he made a grown-up adult decision to take that many.
And let's say to take magic mushrooms, an illegal substance that he purchased from a website and had delivered, and he took a lot of them, more than what would be typical.
Yeah. Well, let's just say Amber was whenever you had surgery or something happened and you were on medication, she was there to say, no, you can't take another painkiller until 4 o'clock because it says every 6 hours. And I got her phone and I've gone through her phone, and on a few occasions she had mentioned dosage to Chris. Like, it says on the package that for a person your size that you are only supposed to take X amount. So when she's saying this in her text message, you can guarantee that when he walked into the house, she would have hiked up her jeans and had that serious conversation with him in person.
Yes.
So she talked to him on several occasions about what dosage you should take. So when the police first talked to him, his comment was when they said, do you know what you did? And he said, yeah, took a fuck ton of mushrooms and killed Amber. Let's get on with it. So he knows, and that's like probably an hour after he killed her. He knew what he did.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that maybe he did enter a psychosis, but he also knew that he took a fuck ton of mushrooms, in his words.
And he willingly, knowingly, that's what's so bizarre. Like, if I choose to drink a bunch of alcohol and get behind the wheel, I am liable. But yet, under these circumstances, he could have claimed, not my fault. It was the psychosis.
And he could have walked, and that's the sad part.
So we need to do some work to change the laws.
Absolutely. 100%.
We need to have conversations with our kids about drugs.
100%. About everything. Whether you want to hear what your kids are saying or not, you need to hear it. You need them. You need to be their trusted source. So if they come to you and tell you something that you absolutely don't agree with, you still have to be there for them. And they need to know that they can come to you with that deepest, darkest stuff.
You can be the safe place, even if you disagree.
Even if you disagree. Absolutely. Our kids all do things that we disagree with. Doesn't mean that you stop loving them.
It's true.
And that gives you the chance to maybe guide them away from the area that you don't want them to, or at least know, what's going on with their group of friends, with their life, with everything. Amber and I talked about everything. I talked to her sometimes 3 times a day.
Linda, as auntie, what do you think? What do you think parents, aunties need to know?
Her and I we'd meet every 3 to 4 weeks because she had fun color in her hair. So we would sit for 2 hours and have conversations, and open, honest conversations about her relationship with Chris.
As you did her hair?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was things that she would say to me, and she'd be like, oh, maybe don't tell mom yet. And then eventually Tammy would be like, oh, Amber just told me this. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness.
I've been keeping this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had really good conversation. It didn't matter your age. Amber didn't see numbers. If you were her people, you were her people.
We're going to post a picture of Amber. Beautiful young woman, living her life. She had bipolar disorder, but she'd gone through counseling. She was medicated. She was working her job. She owned her home. She owned her car. She purchased life insurance. She was a strong woman with her life ahead of her.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry.
And her motorcycle. She had her motorcycle. I no longer have anybody to ride with.
So I wanted to mention Claire's Law because Christopher Kyle Sobey is going to be released in a few years. And anyone that's concerned that they're in a relationship or their daughter is in a relationship or their son, somebody they love, is in a relationship that might have some kind of violence attached to it or the potential, there is something called Claire's Law where you can Google it, you can look online. You have the right to reach out to the police and find out if there's any history of violence in their past. And we just need to hope that whenever Christopher Kyle Sobey is released, that whoever is around him will do that in case he tries to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
So we encourage parents, if they're concerned about anything with their kids, to have those hard conversations and to do that research. Also, I wanted to mention a resource in Saskatchewan. You can call or text 211, go to their website, 211, and you will automatically be linked up with resources in this province near you, in your community. So this is a fairly new resource. We want to get the word out. If we can help prevent any parent from having to go through this, if we can help prevent any child from having to go through violence of any kind. And I think this podcast has made a difference. It's helped. Anything else you want to say to parents? Anything else you want? This is all of our worst fear. I'm so sorry you had to go through it, but I'm grateful that even in the midst of this grief that you're still in, this is still raw and it hasn't been that long, that you're willing to come and speak to other parents on it.
I think what I would say is it's your nightmare. It's a living nightmare that I'm still walking through. But when it happens, trust the people that come to you. Trust RPS. I had a wonderful lady by the name of Rhonda Fiddler with Victim Services who was assigned to our family. And she gave me a wealth of information. Take it. Use it. Take the counseling that they offer. Take the people that they put in front of you. Listen to the police. I know a lot of people dog the police, but I tell you, I had 3 sergeants that I worked with, and they answered my phone call every time. Sergeant Banco was a mother, so she had a different outlook on this as well, but her advice and her support was absolutely amazing. Sergeant Potter was there from the beginning, and Sergeant Atidiju was also amazing. Their strength, every time you met with them or talked with them, you could feel their strength, compassion, and care come through the phone. They were there. They met with me in person. They were there in court. They were there every step of the way. So use them. Your counselors, go to counseling. I still go to counseling. I have an amazing counselor that I go and I'm able to go in there and just dump everything in his lap that I can't with family and friends and stuff, because I just feel that I can't put my hate on anybody else. I carry that, and maybe that's my anger that keeps me going. And I've said that before, my anger and my hate is what keeps me marching forward and hoping that this will never happen. Unfortunately, it's going to happen again to somebody else.
Yeah.
And if I can say anything, just open, honest conversation from the get-go. No matter what light you think it may put your baby in, that's what's going to get you justice. The prosecutor that we had was amazing. So if they don't have everything that you know from your side, then it takes them longer to find it. They'll find it, but why should they have to find it to get justice? And from day one, I said justice for Amber. It's all I wanted.
Justice for Amber. Thank you for sharing her story.
Thanks for having me.
Hug your babies.
Yeah.
Talk to them. Thank you. Thank you to RPS, Regina Police Service. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Being a support. Thank you for coming, Tammy.